If everything you are chasing disappeared tomorrow, your plans, your comfort, your recognition, what would still give your life meaning? There is one priority that, when kept first, makes everything else fall into its right place, and when forgotten, slowly drains purpose from even the busiest life. There comes a moment in every life when success no longer satisfies, when activity no longer brings peace, and when progress still feels strangely empty. Many people are living full schedules but empty lives, moving fast yet going nowhere inside. The reason is simple but serious. The main priority has been quietly replaced. Living for God was never meant to be one option among many. It was meant to be the center from which everything else flows. When that center shifts, confusion grows. When that center is restored, clarity returns. This message matters because forgetting your true priority does not happen suddenly. It happens gradually, through distractions that look harmless and responsibilities that feel urgent. Yet nothing is more urgent than aligning your life with the purpose for which it was created. If you listen carefully, you will discover why living for God is not a burden, but the secret to strength, peace, and lasting direction, and why those who put Him first never truly lose anything that matters. When we talk about living for God, many people think it is about attending services, praying occasionally, or following a set of rules. While these things are important, they are only the beginning. Living for God is far deeper than mere outward observance. It is about the very center of your life, about what defines who you are, what shapes your decisions, and what drives your daily actions. The truth is, your life will go in the direction of your heart's main priority. If your main priority is comfort, your decisions will revolve around avoiding discomfort. If your main priority is recognition, your steps will always chase applause. If your main priority is wealth, everything you do will be measured by profit, gain, or security. But when your main priority is God, everything changes. Living for God defines your identity and your direction because it roots you in something unshakable, something eternal, something that gives life its ultimate meaning. Many people spend years trying to discover who they are through achievements, relationships, or possessions. They look in the mirror and ask themselves, am I enough? Am I doing enough? Am I going in the right direction? The problem is that all of these sources are temporary, fragile, and constantly shifting. Achievements can be lost, relationships can fail, and possessions can disappear. When your sense of identity is built on these things, it is like building on sand. But when you build your life on God as your main priority, you build on rock. Your identity becomes grounded in something eternal. You are no longer defined by what others say about you, what the world expects, or even by what you feel in the moment. You are defined by the truth that you are a child of God, created with purpose, and designed to live in alignment with His will. This shift in identity is not superficial. It penetrates your inner life. You begin to see yourself differently, not as someone who must prove worthiness to the world, but as someone who has inherent value in the eyes of God. This understanding changes how you respond to challenges, criticism, and failure. When you live for God, failure does not crush you because your worth is not dependent on performance. When others reject you, their opinion does not define you because your value is anchored elsewhere. This does not make life easier in the sense of removing problems or pain, but it gives you a perspective that strengthens your spirit and steadies your steps. You become like a tree planted by streams of water, whose leaves do not wither and whose fruit comes in season because your roots are deep, drawing nourishment from a source that never runs dry. Living for God also gives direction to your life. Many people drift through life without a clear sense of where they are going. They take opportunities that come along, make decisions based on convenience, or follow the path that seems popular. But without a main priority, direction is easily lost. When God becomes your main priority, every choice gains clarity. Your decisions are guided not by impulse, not by fear, not by what is simply easy or comfortable, but by a higher purpose. You start to evaluate opportunities, relationships, and goals through the lens of eternal significance rather than temporary gain. Questions like, is this right? And does this honor God? Become the compass by which you navigate life. Even the smallest choices begin to carry weight because you are no longer acting for self alone. One of the most powerful effects of living for God as your main priority is freedom from the pressures of comparison and competition. In a world where success is often measured by the loudest voices, the most popular images, or the highest numbers, it is easy to feel inadequate. Social media, peer expectations, and cultural standards constantly whisper that you are falling behind, missing out, or not enough. But when your identity is rooted in God and your direction is guided by Him, these pressures lose their power. You no longer live to impress others, to conform to trends, or to prove your worth. Instead, you live to fulfill your God-given purpose. This does not mean ignoring excellence or ambition. It means that your pursuit is not motivated by fear, envy, or insecurity. You are freed to grow, to excel, and to love without being enslaved to the judgment of the world. Another profound aspect of living for God is that it brings stability to your emotions and thought life. When identity and purpose are tied to temporary things, your inner life becomes unstable. Success may bring joy for a moment, but disappointment can follow quickly. Praise may lift your spirit, but criticism can crush it. Living for God changes this pattern. Your emotional stability is no longer dependent on fluctuating circumstances because your core is anchored in the eternal. This does not remove challenges, but it strengthens your heart to endure them with peace. Your mind becomes focused, your emotions become aligned with truth, and your energy is not wasted on anxiety over things you cannot control. You are free to act with intentionality rather than reaction. Living for God also gives clarity to your vision for life. When your main priority is not clear, life can feel like a series of random steps. People often chase multiple goals that conflict with each other, or they pursue ambitions that ultimately leave them empty. But when God is first, your vision becomes sharpened. You start to see the road ahead with discernment. Choices that once seemed confusing or overwhelming now have a clear purpose. Opportunities that are distractions can be recognized as such, and doors that are meant for you are opened in alignment with your calling. Even setbacks and difficulties begin to make sense because they are seen as part of a greater plan. Your focus shifts from surviving life to thriving in alignment with your God-given destiny. Furthermore, living for God strengthens your relationships. When identity and direction are grounded in Him, your interactions with others are no longer driven by selfish ambition, insecurity, or comparison. Your love becomes more genuine because it is rooted in a higher purpose than personal gain. Your patience grows because you understand that life is not only about you. You can forgive more easily because your sense of justice and worth is anchored in God rather than personal hurt. Your influence expands because people are drawn not to a life of striving for recognition, but to a life that reflects purpose, integrity, and peace. Finally, living for God shapes your response to success and opportunity. Success in any form, whether in career, education, or personal life, can be dangerous if it becomes the main priority. Many are trapped in the endless pursuit of more, never satisfied, always anxious, always restless. But when God is the main priority, success becomes a tool, not a master. Opportunities are approached with wisdom rather than desperation. Achievements are celebrated with humility rather than arrogance. Influence is exercised with responsibility rather than pride. Every step in life is filtered through the lens of service and eternal significance, and this produces a life that is not only blessed but also a blessing to others. In essence, when God is your main priority, your life becomes anchored in something unshakable, clear, and enduring. Your identity is defined by divine truth, your direction is guided by eternal purpose, your decisions are informed by wisdom, and your relationships are enriched with genuine love. You no longer drift through life reacting to circumstances, but you move with intentionality and confidence because your life is centered on what truly matters. Living for God as the main priority transforms ordinary existence into a life of meaning, power, and impact. It is not an obligation, it is the path to discovering the fullness of who you were created to be, and it changes everything from the inside out. When God becomes the main priority in life, everything else begins to find its proper place. Many people live in constant tension because they have allowed secondary matters to take the place of what is truly primary. They are busy, active, and involved in many things, yet something inside feels unbalanced. They chase success, recognition, comfort, and security, believing that if they acquire these things, life will finally feel right. But the truth is that when God is not first, everything else competes for attention, creating chaos rather than order. Priorities that are out of alignment lead to stress, confusion, and inner unrest. People may be outwardly busy, but inwardly they are scattered, exhausted, and vulnerable to disappointment. The power of placing God first is that it creates order before anything else. Imagine a life as a building. If the foundation is weak, even the most impressive structure will be unstable. Floors may lean, walls may crack, and the roof may collapse under pressure. Similarly, if God is not the foundation, all other areas of life, work, family, relationships, personal goals, will struggle to stand firm. But when God is placed first, every other aspect of life begins to align naturally. Decisions become clearer, relationships improve, work becomes purposeful, and challenges are met with calmness and wisdom. This is not because life suddenly becomes problem-free, but because the heart has a stable center. One of the first effects of putting God first is the reduction of unnecessary stress. When priorities are confused, the mind is constantly divided. People try to serve multiple masters, please everyone, and hold on to too many things at once. They feel pulled in every direction, and their energy is spread thin. But when God is first, the soul finds rest. There is a certainty that life has direction, even if the path is not always easy. The weight of trying to control everything alone begins to lift because trust is placed in God, who knows what is best. This trust does not mean inactivity or irresponsibility. It means acting with wisdom, courage, and faith rather than anxiety, fear, and doubt. When God becomes the main priority, time itself begins to be used more wisely. Many people are busy, but busyness is not the same as productivity or purpose. Days fill up with activities that may seem important, but have little eternal value. Work is done to impress others, social obligations are met out of obligation, and personal pursuits often revolve around self-interest. When God is placed first, a transformation occurs. The decisions about how time is spent are filtered through the question, does this honor God? Does this align with my purpose? Tasks that were once distractions are seen clearly for what they are, and opportunities that serve growth, service, and purpose are pursued with focus and energy. Time becomes an ally rather than an enemy because it is structured around what truly matters. Relationships also take on a new dimension when God is the main priority. Many conflicts arise in life because people pursue their own agendas, desires, and recognition, rather than seeking what is right and loving. Friendships, marriages, and family connections become strained when self-interest dominates. But when God is first, relationships are transformed. Love becomes patient, understanding, and intentional. Decisions about who to invest in, when to speak, and how to act are guided by principles rather than emotions or convenience. Communication becomes clearer, forgiveness becomes easier, and bonds are strengthened because they are no longer dependent solely on human effort or approval. People begin to notice a peace and stability in your life that draws them because your life is no longer dictated by chaos, but by a higher order. Financial and material matters also come under proper alignment when God is first. Many people chase wealth as a priority, thinking it will bring security, happiness, or recognition. But the pursuit of material gain without a higher purpose often leads to stress, envy, and dissatisfaction. When God is placed at the center, wealth, possessions, and resources are seen as tools rather than ultimate goals. The desire to serve, give, and invest in meaningful purposes replaces selfish accumulation. Work and business decisions are guided by integrity, wisdom, and responsibility, not just personal gain. This creates not only personal satisfaction, but also impact, because resources are used in ways that bless others and reflect eternal priorities. Putting God first also brings clarity during times of confusion and decision-making. Life is full of choices, and each choice can have lasting consequences. When priorities are confused, decisions are often made hastily, under pressure, or based on superficial reasoning. But when God is your main priority, a filter is applied to every decision. The mind seeks guidance through prayer, reflection, and alignment with God's will. The heart begins to recognize what truly matters versus what is temporary or deceptive. Choices that may have seemed overwhelming now come with discernment, and even challenges that are unavoidable can be faced with wisdom. There is a confidence that the right path will be revealed, because the foundation of life is rooted in God's purpose. Another profound result of putting God first is perspective. When God is not central, it is easy to become absorbed in the magnitude of problems, failures, and setbacks. Life can feel heavy, unfair, and discouraging. But when God is first, perspective shifts. Difficulties are seen as part of a larger plan. Obstacles become opportunities for growth, and even suffering takes on meaning. The soul understands that life is not only about comfort or immediate results, but about faithfulness and alignment with God's eternal purposes. This perspective brings resilience, patience, and hope, even in circumstances that may seem overwhelming from a human point of view. Spiritual growth also flourishes when God is placed at the center. Many people desire spiritual progress, but struggle because other priorities compete for attention. Prayer is inconsistent. Study of God's word is sporadic, and obedience is partial. When God is first, spiritual disciplines become natural expressions of a life rooted in Him. Time spent in reflection, worship, and service is not seen as an obligation, but as nourishment for the soul. Faith becomes active and alive, and the life of the believer begins to overflow with the fruit of the Spirit. Character, integrity, and wisdom grow steadily because the focus is not on temporary gains, but on eternal alignment. When God is first, influence and impact expand naturally. People who live with clear priorities radiate stability, wisdom, and peace. Others are drawn to their lives because they see purpose and meaning that transcends ordinary concerns. Decisions are respected, advice is valued, and leadership is inspired because it flows from a foundation that is unshakable. By putting God first, ordinary lives become extraordinary in impact. Small acts done with intentionality and love carry far-reaching consequences. Opportunities to serve, mentor, and guide others multiply because the focus is not on self-promotion, but on contributing to the eternal good. Even in moments of crisis, those who prioritize God experience a different quality of strength. Life will always present challenges, disappointments, and unexpected turns. Those who have allowed other priorities to dominate often find themselves overwhelmed, anxious, or reactive. But when God is first, the heart is steady. Faith provides a steady anchor, wisdom guides decisions, and peace guards the soul. Problems are faced with courage, patience, and clarity because the main priority has created an inner order that no external circumstance can easily shake. In essence, when God is placed first, the alignment of life becomes evident in every sphere. Work is purposeful, time is productive, relationships are strengthened, decisions are clear, perspective is broadened, influence is expanded, and resilience is fortified. Life begins to flow in a way that is harmonious rather than chaotic, because the main priority, God Himself, orders everything else. The subtle yet profound truth is that nothing truly works in harmony until the one who created it is given the highest place. And when this is done, everything else finds its proper place. When God becomes the main priority in a person's life, a remarkable transformation begins to take place, not just in circumstances, but within the very nature of the person. Many people live full lives outwardly, but inwardly they feel small, powerless, or insignificant. They chase success, influence, and recognition, yet their impact often fades and their hearts remain restless. Living for God releases a power that the world cannot give, a peace that cannot be shaken by circumstances, and an influence that transcends generations. It is a power that does not rely on strength alone, a peace that does not depend on comfort, and an impact that does not fade when applause stops. When God becomes your first priority, your life begins to radiate in ways that are visible to others and deeply satisfying to the soul. Power begins in the heart. Many people think of power as authority, wealth, or control over circumstances. But the true power of a life centered on God is spiritual. It is the ability to stand firm in the face of trials, to rise above fear, to act with courage when others falter, and to remain steadfast when all around seems to crumble. This power is not dependent on human approval or recognition. It flows from a deep connection to the source of all strength, and it manifests in patience, resilience, and wisdom. Those who live for God first are not easily shaken by failure because their source of strength is eternal. They are not ruled by emotions because their hearts are disciplined by faith. They do not give in to despair because their hope is anchored in a reality beyond the temporary. Peace is another fruit that naturally comes when God is first. Many people live in constant tension, anxiety, and fear. They worry about the future, dwell on the past, and struggle to find rest in the present. This is because their main priority is often something temporary, fragile, or unreliable. When God becomes the main focus, peace settles in the heart even before the circumstances change. This peace is not passive. It does not mean ignoring problems or pretending everything is fine. Rather, it is an active state of trust and assurance, a confidence that no matter what happens, life is in the hands of the one who knows the beginning from the end. Challenges can still come, storms may still rise, and uncertainty may still appear, but a person who lives for God experiences a calmness that cannot be disturbed by any external situation. Living for God also brings a clarity of vision and purpose. Many people struggle to understand why they are here, what their life is for, and what legacy they will leave behind. Without God, purpose is often vague or fleeting, and life can feel like a series of random events. But when God is first, every decision, every effort, and every relationship can be filtered through eternal significance. The ordinary becomes extraordinary, the small becomes meaningful, and every moment has potential for impact. Choices are guided not by convenience or fleeting desire, but by a higher awareness of what truly matters. This clarity allows a person to move with confidence, to act with intention, and to invest energy where it will produce lasting fruit. Influence naturally grows when God is the main priority. Many people seek influence through self-promotion, networking, or achievement, but these forms of influence are often temporary and shallow. True influence comes from alignment with God, from a life that demonstrates integrity, wisdom, and purpose. When God is first, others are drawn to the stability, peace, and direction evident in a person's life. People notice not only what is done, but how it is done. The character, faith, and consistency that reflect a higher source. Influence grows quietly but steadily, touching people, shaping decisions, and inspiring action that extends far beyond immediate visibility. Even small acts, when done in alignment with God, carry weight and multiply in ways that human effort alone cannot achieve. Joy is also released when God becomes the main priority. Many chase happiness, comfort, or entertainment, but these are fleeting and often dependent on circumstances. True joy is deeper, resilient, and eternal. It comes from living in alignment with purpose, experiencing God's presence, and witnessing the unfolding of His plan. Joy is not the absence of trials, but the presence of faith that transcends trials. People who live for God first have a joy that does not waver because it is rooted in eternal reality rather than temporal conditions. It becomes a source of strength, encouragement, and motivation, not just for themselves, but for everyone around them. Living for God also produces a remarkable endurance in the face of challenges. Life is full of setbacks, disappointments, and moments when giving up seems easier than pressing on. Those who prioritize God discover that there is a power and resilience available that cannot be found elsewhere. When God is first, challenges become opportunities for growth rather than sources of despair. Difficult circumstances refine character, strengthen faith, and reveal potential that may otherwise remain hidden. Endurance becomes a natural outcome because the focus is no longer on temporary struggles, but on eternal promises. Every obstacle becomes a chance to demonstrate trust, faith, and perseverance. Another essential effect of living for God is the transformation of ordinary actions into extraordinary significance. The daily routines, responsibilities, and small decisions of life can often feel mundane or meaningless when approached without purpose. But when God is the main priority, every task can be infused with meaning. Serving others, performing work, nurturing relationships, and even facing difficulties take on eternal importance. What might appear as a simple choice, how to spend time, whom to encourage, where to invest resources, becomes a chance to live purposefully and create impact beyond what is immediately visible. Faith also grows exponentially when God is first. Faith is not just belief, it is active trust that moves beyond mere words into consistent action. When life is centered on God, faith becomes the engine that drives decisions, the anchor that stabilizes emotions, and the lens through which challenges are seen as opportunities. Faith produces courage where fear would dominate, wisdom where confusion would arise, and hope where despair would threaten to settle. Living for God allows faith to flourish because the heart is undivided, the focus is clear, and the commitment is unwavering. The impact of a life lived for God extends beyond personal blessings. Those who prioritize God first naturally become vessels for blessing others. Their time, resources, wisdom, and love flow outward in ways that create ripples of influence in families, communities, and even generations. They model integrity, resilience, and purpose. They inspire others not through words alone, but through consistent living that reflects divine truth. A life lived for God multiplies its influence quietly but powerfully because it touches the root of what truly matters: hearts, character, and eternal purpose. Living for God first also transforms perspective on life itself. Many see life as a series of random events, accidents, or struggles to survive. But when God is the main priority, life is understood as a coherent journey, a carefully guided path, and a mission of eternal significance. Problems are seen in the light of purpose. Success is measured by alignment with truth, and every experience is interpreted through the lens of God's will. Perspective shifts from temporary worry to eternal vision, from fear to faith, from restlessness to peace. Life is no longer merely endured. It is embraced with understanding, clarity, and confidence. Even in the midst of uncertainty, a person who lives for God first experiences a stability that cannot be shaken. The world may be unpredictable, circumstances may change, and people may disappoint, but the heart of someone aligned with God stands firm. Their inner life is anchored in a power that transcends the temporary, a peace that surpasses understanding, and a vision that guides through darkness. Stability becomes not a result of circumstances, but a reflection of the eternal priority that shapes every thought, decision, and action. Ultimately, living for God releases a power that strengthens, a peace that sustains, and an impact that endures. Life becomes more than survival or achievement. It becomes a journey of purpose, influence, and eternal significance. The ordinary is transformed into extraordinary through faith, love, and intentionality. Challenges are met with courage, joy is deeper than circumstances, and influence reaches far beyond what is visible. Living for God first is not a limitation. It is a liberation, a release of potential, a strengthening of character, and a channel of blessing that touches everything around you.